Hello everyone, hope you all are fine and safe at home. A warm welcome to my YouTube channel. Please do subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to get all the notifications. Thank you. Everyone, so let's start with the history and the political science standard 10th. Okay, so first we'll start with the cover page of the history and the political science textbook. Let me tell you that this history and political science has made much more attractive by the government, because see the pictures of the Mahatma Phule, the picture of the Karl Marx, various copper plate, Suhagora copper plate which belong to Uttar Pradesh, Taj Mahal, paintings of the Mona Lisa, and many more has been given over here. And also they have explained about the village, that is Bhilad, which is there at the Mahabaleshwar, which is called as the land of the strawberries. Okay, so this textbook have made very attractive. So today I am going to deal with this particular textbook, and let's go through the lessons which are meant specially for standard 10th. Okay, so let me start with here the chapter number 1. I'm going to start. Okay, so our chapter number 1 is of the historiography, development in the West. Over here we are going to study about the tradition of the historiography, modern historiography, the development of the scientific perspective in Europe and historiography, and all about the information about notable scholars. Dekho students, historical research, writing and studies are carried out with an objective of understanding the chronological of the past events. See students, when we talk about history, what clicks in our mind? Chronology of the past events. Every event happens in a sequential manner. This is a continuous process. It goes on happening one after the another. In physical and natural science, when we talk about the empirical method, that is a laboratory method which is very applicable. They say, for example, when you go in your laboratories, you get to a perfect conclusion, but when we talk about in history, we cannot deal with the conclusion. It means what, in history we have to depend upon the studies of the expertise, we have to depend upon the proofs, we have to depend upon the evidences in order to understand something in a very true sense. Okay, so what I just wanted to tell you that in history, laboratory method is not at all applicable, students. This method allows formulating laws that remain true irrespective of the time and space. Okay, so this method allows formulating laws. Rules are made in such a way that remain true irrespective of the time and space. These laws can be tested and proved repeatedly. Now see, in historical research, it may not be possible to use the method of laboratory experience and observation. Lot of experiments it is not possible to do in the history. Example, World War I, which took place in the year 1914, which continued up to year 1918. If the teacher of the history wanted to teach about the World War I, she will go through the expert opinion. Yes, whatever it is available, whatever knowledge it is available, she will utilize that. But in order to explain in a better way, she cannot create a world war. Means these events cannot be created by the people. In the history, we'll have to depend upon the study of the expertise itself. We'll have to depend upon the observation, expert opinions. Suppose your history teacher enters with a pot or any kind of the historical document or any manuscript is there, until and unless we don't know whether it has been proved by the expertise, whether we have a evidence, whether we have a proof, we cannot consider that particular thing to be true. Getting me, students? This is because we were not present in the historical time and space, and the historical events cannot be recreated. And listen students, whatever the historical events are there, these events they cannot be recreated. Means the World War I, which took place in the year 1914, which cannot be recreated just to give a shot to the students. No, it is just not possible, the recreation of the event. Also in the history, it is not possible to formulate the perfect laws as like in science, because there is a lot of difference between the science and the history. Okay, that remain true irrespective of the time and space. As per the time changes, as per the slowly events also changes. To begin, we need an expert who keeps the knowledge of the language as well as the script of the historical document. It's very important. We should go through the knowledge of an expert. An expert knows the language also, an expert knows the script also of a historical document. In order to read it, in order to understand its meaning, etc., the expert can examine the authenticity of the document by using the various criteria. देखो एक expert होता है तो what he do, he needs to know the authenticity means whether that particular thing is real or not. That can be easily understood through a expertized opinion, through various historical experts. Many people are there, they are doing the career in the history, they have vast knowledge of the history, they are expertise in the history. Okay, now see, I'll give you one example. Today your history textbook is published which has been scrutinized by experts, and then only this copy is handed over by the government of India to the student in order to go into the detail, because it is a copy which has been glanced by the experts. Then it is applicable to the entire state board students. Getting me? Anything cannot be considered as history. Suppose I entered and I went into imagination, I will create my own imaginative story, then I will deliver it to my student, it will not become an history. History is the study of the past, which is actually depend upon the past events only. Okay, so when we talk about the expert can examine the authenticity. Now see, when we talk about it differs the document by using the criteria such as lettering style of the ancient time and the lettering style of the today, it differs. Author style of writing, every author has its own style of writing. Okay, then when we talk about manufacturing date and the type of the paper used in the ancient times were different, paper used in current modern time, the quality of the paper, the manufacturing date also differs. Stamps of the authority, it also differs. In ancient day the authority was different, today when we talk about the authority is different. Okay, such a document is further scrutinized by a historian. All these documents have been scrutinized means what, to have a glance through a bird's eye view. It has been scrutinized by a historian with the help of the relevant historical references. Now see, what I am going to do is that I will explain you the most important topic, that is historical research method. This topic plays a very important role. This topic is very important for a history student to understand it. Our first point to be discussed over here is what, formulating hypotheses. It's very important in the historical research method to formulate the hypothesis. How we are going to formulate the hypothesis, how we will be in a position to formulate the hypothesis. Second point will be critically examining various sources of the history. As you all know that students, there are various sources of the history. The oral source, जैसे के povadas are there, now folk songs are there, folk tales are there. Now when we talk about written sources, official records are there, manuscripts are there, and many more handwritten documents will be included in your written sources of history. Then we talk about audio visual source. This is actually the modern source of the history. Your mobile phone, your computer, your laptops, your palm tops, these all will be included. And most important, television is also an audio visual medium of the history. Okay, and material source, when we talk about in ancient days, the kings used to wear a lot of jewelries, their attire, their clothing pattern, and various sculpture, various monuments, this all will be included in the material source of the history. Point number 3, examining relevant references of the available historical information. It's very important to examine the relevant references of the available historical information, whether whatever references which is available to us, whether it is relevant or not. Relevant means true or it is false. It should not be false. False information cannot create a history. Whatever information we are having, it should be very true. Okay, collecting historical information, highlighting the process that leads to historical transitions, and to collect lot of information which involves the processes that leads to historical transition. Historical transition means what? Historical change, carrying out comparative analysis. Now see, here I will give you example. See, before, when India got independence, Congress was divided into two parties, that is the moderates and the extremists were there. Abhi moderates were such a way, they used to oppose the Britishers with the help of the peaceful means, and the extremists were such people that they used to also oppose the Britishers but in a very violent military action. In this way, comparative analysis, understanding the references regarding the time and space of the given historical events. It's very important to understand the references regarding the time and space of various historical events, and also various conceptual framework used in the historical research method. Various conceptual framework is used in the historical research method. And the last, we are in a position to formulate the relevant questions. We should be in a position to question ourselves in the view of the historical references. So we can question to ourselves in the view of various historical references. That is something about the historical research method, which may come in your board examination, which is a very important question for your board. You can go to it. Okay, now methods of various disciplines are used in the historical research. For example, archaeology. Archaeology क्या है? The study of the human activity through the recovery and the analysis of the material culture is called as the archaeology. Then when we talk about archival science, see, already students, you have studied in 9th standard all about your archives. These are the place where historical documents are preserved. Okay, that is about archival science. Manuscriptology, it means what? Lot of handwritten documents are being preserved over here. Epigraphy is none but the study of inscriptions. Study of various inscriptions is called as the epigraphy. Analysis of lettering style. Lettering, the style of the writing of the letter also differs from person to person. Linguistic, there is also differentiation on the basis of the languages. Okay, numismatic, study of the coins. Many of the students are also in the hobby of collecting lot of coins, so that is called as numismatics. Those who do the deep study of the coins, that study is called as numismatics. Genealogy, study about the genes. The study of the lineage, which gives you a lot of ancestral information is given through that. Now see, when we talk about the tradition of the historiography, we have learned about the historical research method earlier, critically examining the historical sources and writing the historical narrative. The writing of the critical historical narrative is known as historiography, the name of your chapter. If anybody will ask you what is historiography, simple answer you'll have to give. The writing of the critical historical narrative, the person who is in a position to write a critical historical narrative is known as historiography. A scholar who writes such a narrative is called a historian, or that particular person who writes such a narrative, critical historical narrative, who will write that person will become a historian. Deep knowledge is required to be a historian. When we talk about in science, lot of scientists are there. Anybody cannot be a scientist. Deep knowledge of the science is required. They are the researchers. Yes, same about when we talk about history. Deep knowledge in the history is required. The historian cannot include every past event in his narrative. When we talk about a historian, we cannot include every past event in his narrative. Whatever narration he is giving, it is not possible to include every past event. The inclusion and interpretation of the historical events by the historian often depends upon conceptual framework adopted by that historian. His style of writing is determined by that conceptual framework. So students, what is important? His style of writing. That particular historian, how he is writing, that is more important, students. The tradition of writing critical historical narrative, that is historiography, was not prevalent in the ancient societies. In ancient society, this system was not prevalent. However, that does not mean that they were not aware about the historical time or were not eager to know about it. ऐसे नहीं है कि the lot of prehistoric period, in that also ancient people, they were very much keen about it. We cannot tell like that that they were not interested in historiography. Yes, ancient people also felt the need of passing the stories of the life and the valor to the of the ancestor to the next generation. I'll explain you over here. I'll give you one example. Students, when you sit along with your grandmother, grandfather, or your mother, father, and especially along with your granny, when you sit along, so at that time, they are very much interested to tell you all the stories about their time. Yes, they go on telling you the stories, how in our time this used to happen, in our time that used to happen. So they are actually very keenly interested to pass the valor, the bravery at that time, bravery of the ancestor. That, see, in this generation you are very lazy, these that it has been said, but in our generation most of the time your grandmother, your grandfather says that we used to be very active, overactive we were. Yes, so all these stories. Then Shan communities all over the world use various means, like cave paintings were used by the people, and storytelling were used by the people, then singing songs. Large number of the people, they were very keenly interested in singing songs and ballads. These are nothing but the poem or song narrating the story in a short time or short stanzas. For this purpose, these traditional means are looked upon as the sources of history in the modern historiography. See, students, this picture is all about the earliest inscription in the Louvre Museum. The above picture shows a fragment. It's a piece of the earliest inscription. A forward marching file of the soldiers. See, are you able to see over here? A forward marching file of the soldiers holding the shields in their hand, as well as the spears. Okay, a lot of the tools, weapons are there in their hand, and the general is at the forefront. You might be easily able to see from this picture, one general is at the forefront and large number of the other people is also there at the back of the general, that is holding the shields and the spear. Okay, the tradition of recording history can be traced back to the Sumer civilization in the Mesopotamia. It belongs to the Sumer civilization of the Mesopotamia. The names of the Sumerian king and the stories of the battles fought by them have been preserved with the help of various inscriptions. तो ऐसे कुछ inscriptions है with the help of which various past events have been recorded over here. The earliest inscription shown above dates back to 4500 before Common Era. It records a battle fought between two kingdoms. It is now displayed at the Louvre Museum in France. So this story is all about the Louvre Museum in France, and the picture above shows an inscription of the Louvre Museum. Okay, so general is at the forefront. Okay, thank you. Then wait, I'll be coming along with my another video in order to explain you the characteristics of the modern historiography. Thank you.